One of the most infamous movies in cinema history. Today we cover Cleopatra, the movie that almost killed Fox Studios. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. My name's Harry Bailey. I'm joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, there's a few changes coming on the podcast, but first of all, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. The weather's picking up here in Ireland this week, so yeah, that's something to look forward to. And yeah, we're gonna cover one of the more kind of infamous box office bombs. Not even a bomb. It was more considering the
Technically, it was the highest grossing movie of the
yeah
year, but was technically still a bomb.
yeah. It's one of those weird ones because of how much it cost. It was like Fast and Furious 9. Just because of how much it cost, even though I made a fuck ton of money, it's still considered a flop. Um, and I was still, in fairness, did well at the Oscars anyway. Even all of that said,
Yeah, even though they did accidentally screw over the guy that played Octavian. He's Irish. Roddy McDowell.
yeah,
I don't know if you know about this. Roddy McDowell was supposed to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. And as if there wasn't enough errors with this movie, 20th Century Fox accidentally listed him as a lead actor, and then tried to undo it. And the Oscars refused because they had already sent their ballots to the printers. So 20th Century Fox had to very awkwardly make a public apology to Roddy McDowell, because the only reason he wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor was because of a clerical error on their own behalf. Just so embarrassing. So many embarrassing things with this movie. Ruben Mamoulian was director at one point. They spent about $5 million in Britain before they had to abandon the shoot and then come back to it. Joseph L. Mankiewicz, who ended up directing it, was fired in post, but then was rehired when they realized he was the only one who would be able to put this thing together in post. It was meant to be two movies and became one big giant one instead. It was meant to be a movie called Cleopatra and Caesar that was meant to be 3 hours, and then a movie called Cleopatra and Mark Antony that was also meant to be 3 hours, and they just butchered the two of them into one big 4 hour movie. Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton had one of the most famous or infamous affairs in the history of Hollywood. This would be the blossoming of a very famous relationship. Also discovered at dinner last night that Richard Burton is technically the actor with the most Oscar nominations to never receive an Oscar. 7 Oscar nominations. Both Peter O'Toole and Glenn Close both have 8 nominations, but they both received honorary awards.
yeah,
If you don't count that as an Oscar, that's also fine because they are effectively apology makeup awards anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, Richard Burton never received one whilst he was alive anyway, so technically most nominated actor to never win an Oscar. No nomination for this, though, as far as I'm aware, which is strange because we'll get into a spoiler-free review, but I do think he is comfortably the best performance in this film.
I would agree.
That's my opinion, anyway. I think he's by far the best thing in this film, acting-wise. I don't want to kick one of my boys, but unfortunately, I could not get over how much Hume Cronin phones it in. It's one of the most phoned in performances I've ever seen on the podcast. And, I've considered him one of my boys. He was in Shadow of a Doubt, and, you gotta love how weird he is in that movie. But yeah, unfortunately, it is genuinely one of the most phoned in performances I've ever seen on this podcast. And we have covered well over 100 movies now. But first and foremost, before we get into a spoiler-free review of Cleopatra, couple of house cleaning bits. from September onwards. And we will tell you next Friday what we're going to be covering in September. From September onwards, the Golden Era Film Podcast will move to Sundays at 6 p.m. GMT. Why? Well, because we can clearly see that the Sunday episodes are annihilating the Friday episodes this month. So we may as well. We kind of had a feeling this was going to happen anyway, because a while ago I accidentally published the Housemaid episode on a Sunday instead of a Friday, and it did really, really well. And we kind of were like, oh, that is something worth exploring. So, from September onwards, the Golden Hour Film Podcast moves to Sundays. And, of course, let us know in the comments as well. We changed. Shane, you can give me your opinion as well, because I didn't even say it to Shane. But this is kind of because of my internship I've been doing, and I've been doing a lot of analytics and stuff with YouTube. We've changed our thumbnail style. I know, so important. Yeah, let us know what you think of the new style in the comments. Analytically, people's faces do way better than just an image. So it also worked for us on Spotify when we changed the art to our faces in the logo rather than just the logo. We now have far more monthly listeners on Spotify, so hopefully that'll be the case on YouTube as well. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube if you can. Leave a like, leave a comment, give us reviews on all the audio platforms. It's a spoiler-free review. Right, Shane, Cleopatra, with no spoilers, please. What were your thoughts heading into it, and is it any use? Is it worth seeing such an infamous movie?
Look, going into it, I was really looking forward to it because I knew its reputation, but also like Roman politics. I think I've spoke about this in the Spartacus episode. Roman politics and obviously Egyptian politics as well, kind of going side by side with that. That's something I'd be interested in seeing explored on screen for sure. Obviously, I knew it kicked off the love affair between Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. They obviously went on to get married twice.
And divorced twice.
Divorced twice, exactly it. And yeah, I was just looking forward to it for those reasons, I suppose. I have to say, it does not justify its runtime to me whatsoever. Not well over 4 hours, but over 4 hours, and yeah, I have to say I felt every bit of that time. There's just entire scenes that absolutely drag, that don't justify their existence, that could easily have been significantly shortened, and yeah, I don't think the performances are given any help by the writing, but also the performances don't really elevate the material that much either. I think I agree with you. I think Richard Burton does the best job. I think Elizabeth Taylor has some scenes that she does pretty well in, but I think Richard Burton, like, he's given a kind of gravitas that I don't think, for example, Rex Harrison does with Julius Caesar.
No.
I liked Martin Landau actually as Rufio, as his sidekick, his main henchman. I think he does a pretty good job. But yeah, to me, it just does not. It doesn't live up to the kind of quality of performance that I know that certainly Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton can give. I don't think it lives up to the movies I've seen previously from Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and yeah, it's a pretty significant misfire in my opinion, unfortunately.
Yeah, I also was really looking forward to this. I do enjoy when we cover like a milestone movie. Sometimes we are pleasantly surprised. I don't think either of us thought that we would enjoy Wings as much as we did, which was the first film to ever win Best Picture. That was a massive film, a massive landmark film, and we both really enjoyed it. I do agree with Shane. There's definitely positives to take from this film. It has a brilliant ship battle towards the end.
Yeah.
The set design, the costumes, yes, they spent an egregious amount of money on both of those things, but they are both very impressive and deserving of their Oscars. Even the 24-karat gold dress, obviously Dame Elizabeth Taylor, we should say, because we do say sir for a lot of actors. Dame Elizabeth Taylor's wardrobe was comfortably the most expensive wardrobe an actress ever had at that point, or any actor. And she also, as far as I'm aware, was the first actress to be paid $1 million for a movie. For this movie, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure off the top of my head she was the first actress. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, obviously, because I'm sure you will. Her performance isn't amazing. I will say the film does actually kind of. It definitely piqued my interest for the last hour, which is funny the way that works. Like 3 hours in, I kind of was expecting to just be mind-numbingly bored by the end, and then the last hour did kind of catch me. That being said, do I think this movie is great? No. It is visually so impressive. Cleopatra's entrance into Rome is a really impressive scene, and God love the guy because of how hot it was. There's like pigeons or doves or whatever that like fly behind her during her entrance, but because it was so hot, they all just stayed in their box. So a guy, one of the crew members, had to get in the box and shoo them all out, and they shat all over him apparently. Um, but yeah, that whole scene is really impressive. I do think there's a scene towards the end with Mark Antony and Cleopatra where, without spoiling anything, she kind of lets him go and do a thing. And that scene's really good. She kind of questions his manhood, and his response is very good. His performance is very good. Um, but yeah, overall, the first 3 hours of this like 4 hour 10 minute movie do not work for me really. I agree. Rex Harrison as Caesar is totally miscast. Um, just a poor performance overall. There's a lot of phoned in performances, as I mentioned. Hume Cronin, who is a guy who I do stand up for a lot on the podcast, is egregiously phoned in. There's a bit where his line delivery, the great library is on fire or something, and Elizabeth Taylor's doing her, not her best, but she's doing acting at least, and she's like, oh, the city's on fire, the great library's on fire, and he says something like, all those books, and that is actually his line delivery. It is so wooden. It's so absurdly wooden. Yeah. Is it worth ticking off the list? Probably, just because it is such a significant film, such an infamous film. Do I think you will enjoy it? Probably not, unless you're like a real um, fan of Egyptian Roman history and politics. You may get some interest out of it. But yeah, the whole it's basically a film of two halves. The Caesar half is nothing memorable, bar Cleopatra's entrance.
Yeah.
And the Mark Antony half is definitely a step up because of Richard Burton's performance. And I reckon we get into some spoilers. So Shane, this is a 4 hour movie, so I'm not going to ask you what Cleopatra's all about. But if you want to just take the first half, the Caesar half,
Yeah.
and give me a bit of a breakdown of the Caesar half and your thoughts on it, spoilers, and your analysis on the Caesar half, I'll then go with the Caesar half in my opinions on it, and then we'll go full blown spoilers for the Mark Antony half. Yeah, because we're not beat by beat covering a 4 hour plus film that's not even great.
Yeah, 100%. So, kind of pretty much at the start, we see Caesar's army, the Roman army, land on the shores of Alexandria. The Alexandrian Prince Ptolemy, who is the brother of Cleopatra, we learn that she has been exiled, or she has certainly been kind of sent away because they're not basically fans of her. They're kind of all expecting war. They're expecting a massive battle to ensue, but it turns out the Romans intend to be more diplomatic. So kind of Caesar comes down and kind of disarms them, and yeah, he nips any such idea in the bud. But he wants to come and restore kind of dual rule between Ptolemy and Cleopatra. And then we see the scene actually where Cleopatra is smuggled into the quarters of Julius Caesar's.
Bizarre.
Bizarre, but also kind of entertaining. I think like
Yeah.
it's interesting that that's obviously the extent they kind of the kind of I suppose the extent of what she had to go to because such was her standing in the Egyptian kind of hierarchy, shall we say, at the time. Like she wasn't
Yeah.
exactly people were too fond of her. But anyway, she and Julius Caesar have this kind of tete-a-tete, this kind of back and forth, talking about kind of the rule of Alexander the Great and how she kind of wants kind of that to be kind of to essentially kind of come back. And she has aspirations for herself and for Egypt, and you can see that she is starting to kind of intrigue Julius Caesar. He's starting to become more and more kind of entranced by her, and effectively, yeah, he kind of gets woven into her spell. I think it's pretty interesting. She has a very, very smart mind, both in terms of militaristically, but also kind of the kind of day to day politics. She kind of knows how to appeal to the common person. I think that becomes pretty clear. Um, and then we get the scene where, like you said, the library scene and the kind of the sacking of Alexandria, where yeah, things happen and it's pretty awful to kind of. I mean, they're shot really well, but also it's yeah, it's pretty horrible what happens there. Then they end up getting married. I think it's more of a, from her point of view, I think it's more of a political marriage, but certainly it's framed that Julius Caesar is in love with her and is kind of head over heels for her. But yeah, from her point of view, it is just a political kind of marriage of convenience, so to speak. Um, and then Mark Antony, our first glimpse of him is when he arrives at Julius Caesar's palace, where Caesar's sister is, and he kind of tells her that he's just gotten married to Cleopatra.
I think is that not Caesar's wife?
Sorry, you're right. It is his wife. Yeah, it is his wife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because in Roman law, Cleopatra and Julius Caesar's marriage was never recognized.
yeah,
But also, he was already married to someone
yeah,
who, interestingly enough, he did not have any children with.
yeah,
But as you said, he's clearly infatuated with Cleopatra. I think it's kind of framed. There's definitely a little bit of, just because of some of the scenes that we do get in the second half of the movie, there's definitely a bit of an attraction there from Cleopatra.
yeah,
But again, it is one of the most powerful people in the world in their 20s, ultimately kind of marrying someone who's also one of the most powerful people in the world, who's significantly older when you give back then's lifespan. When you look at back then's lifespan into perspective, it definitely does come across as a bit of a power play, or at least a way of kind of easing tensions, and still, gaining control. But yeah, just no urgency in Rex Harrison's
no,
performance.
not at all.
As you said, Martin Landau's good. He's kind of scattered throughout this film. Shout out to him. And yeah, for the first half of the film anyway, up until the big entrance of Cleopatra into Rome, where all the Romans are introduced to her, it's kind of hard to see where the budget went, other than like these gigantic rooms and costumes.
Yeah,
It's like you actually just spent that much money on massive rooms that look impressive, but like,
yeah,
do they need to be so massive? um, but yeah, we get Cleopatra's entrance into Rome, genuinely brilliant,
yeah.
like
It's great. It's
unbelievable
staged
entrance.
incredibly well. Yeah,
Yeah. As well, the juxtaposition between her, entering the movie via a rug, versus
yeah,
entering Rome on this giant man-made, like, carried contraption carried by hundreds of extras, that she walks down with her son, because yes, herself and Caesar end up having a child named Caesarion, um, who comes with her to Rome. they have this grand entrance in front of all the Romans, and the Romans are not all that pleased already with Caesar because he has effectively had an affair with
Yeah,
a non-Roman woman who comes from lands afar, and she's coming here, big lavish entrance on in all her gold and stuff. The Romans kind of turn their noses up at it. Um, One person is who also turns his nose up at it is Roddy McDowell's character Octavian, who you can tell that he definitely wants to progress in his career, so to speak, within the sort of Roman politics, Roman hierarchy, and it's safe to say that Caesar, whenever things are all going his way, at least in this film, I think he maybe gets a little bit, you know, too brazen, a little bit too hubristic,
yeah.
uh,
He wants to be named.
for the Romans anyway.
Yeah, he wants to be named. His nickname's dictator, but he is. They were kind of refuse him to be named emperor because that's a bit too close to, or to master because that's a bit too close to kings. Which obviously the whole point of Rome is it's a republic. It's not like a dictatorship, so to speak.
Yeah, he's kind of just dictator in name only.
Yeah, yeah,
But he kind of wants to abolish the sort of Senate that they have, which, funnily enough, the Senate aren't all that pleased with.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we get. I'm sure everyone knows about the Ides of March. Obviously, the murder of
Yeah.
Julius Caesar, one of the most famous events in history. So I don't need to necessarily obviously go through it, but it is staged pretty well. So Caesar is kind of called to the Senate, and they spent time at this point building up Brutus. So Brutus is like kind of the main detractor of Caesar, and they kind of it's kind of been building up that Brutus is going to be the one to essentially take him down. He wants the Senate to declare him king of the Roman Empire, so of all of the Roman Empire, not just Rome. And then Cleopatra, she gets like a premonition of sorts where she kind of knows something bad is going to happen. Um,
Yeah.
he gets stabbed in the back, obviously, the Ides of March. And then he's publicly burnt and put on display on the streets. So, like, it's a pretty, obviously, brazen kind of move from the Roman generals and the Roman politicians because they obviously don't want anyone to kind of. It's a message of sorts to Cleopatra because she's not welcome in Rome anymore, but it's also a message to anyone who maybe would do kind of would have similar aspirations to Caesar that like you're not going to try this shit anymore. So yeah, that pretty much brings us up to the intermission. And yeah, obviously Rome's in an interesting spot right now.
Yeah, so Octavian eventually in the second portion of the movie, in movie two, so to speak, Octavian kind of becomes the leader
Yeah,
of Rome. He becomes the Caesar, and Mark Antony, meanwhile, is on a quest to collect the people involved in the Ides of March, like Infinity Stones. And if he doesn't kill them, they tend to just, do it themselves. Um, but yeah, Mark Antony eventually also then becomes infatuated with Cleopatra. Their relationship is far more platonic than Julius Caesar and her, or not platonic. Sorry, far more.
real.
Yeah, far more real.
Yeah,
There's definitely a real connection there. In real life, they actually had 3 kids together. But yeah, that doesn't happen in the movie. In the movie, Mark Antony, after some hemming and some hawing, because it's kind of, are you with Rome or are you with Cleopatra? Eventually, he does choose to side with Cleopatra, and we get a lot of scenes where it's basically him hemming and hawing, and back in Rome, because he's now out in Egypt. Back in Rome, Octavian is just rubbing his name through the dirt and rubbing Cleopatra's name through the dirt, and he's assembling a massive army to just march on into Egypt. Um, but yeah, Mark Antony does end up going to war with Rome. He turns his back on Rome, uh, figuratively, and literally, and he chooses from this kind of point onwards. This is where Richard Burton's very good. Uh,
Hmm.
kind of his not downward spiral, so to speak, but his kind of character change is by far the most interesting thing in this film for me, um, because he realizes what he's doing is out of love and not kind of the Roman way, which is just to win all the time.
Yeah.
Because his odds of victory are actually not the best. Rome are far more equipped and have far, at least in this movie, are far more equipped and it's definitely have better ships. But that is not to Mark Antony's knowledge because he chooses to have a battle on the sea, and yeah, Rome absolutely demolish Egypt in this massive battle. It looks amazing. They crash one ship into another. You got extras jumping from boats to boats. You got cannons firing. It looks really good. It looks massive, and the Romans really do trick poor El Mark Antony because when he thinks he's boarded Octavian's ship, and it'll be leader versus leader, and then the winner can be declared the winner. Turns out Octavian's not actually on that ship. Total decoy. They've now got Mark Antony stranded in the middle of the Roman fleet, and they just assume the worst. Cleopatra and the lot all just assume he's dead because their ship burns whilst he's actually on the Roman ship. Um, and Cleopatra leaves on her golden barge. And this is where the downward spiral begins for Mark Antony. Because whilst all of his men are asking for leadership and they're asking what to do and they're outnumbered by the Romans, and he realized that Octavian has literally just led him into a mousetrap, he hops off the ship onto a rowboat and rows towards Cleopatra for safety, literally rowing past his own men drowning in the sea who are screaming out for help. There's no real coming back from that, I
No.
don't think. Certainly not in the military.
No, like at this point, the Romans have already figured out, or have learned that when Mark Antony dies, he wants to be buried in his beloved Alexandria, to quote
Oh,
directly. Which, yeah, I think at that point they're like, yeah, we need to fucking kill this guy. And then, so that was the Romans. Obviously, his men are still loyal to him, but certainly when that happens, it's like, yeah, there's basically no coming back from that, like I said. So yeah, we get back. As you said, Cleopatra thinks that Mark Antony is dead, and um, she, at this point, she is kind of resigned, or is willing to accept death as well to kind of be reunited with him. Um,
yeah, he makes it onto her ship,
yeah,
and straight away one of her men throws his sword overboard for fear that
yeah,
once it sets in what he's done,
yeah,
that he's gonna, commit harakiri, or actually technically it wouldn't be harakiri, but he would, end his life. And boy, does that set in. He does get the blues. Uh, yeah, we get definitely the best monologue of the film, in this really well lit scene between Cleopatra and Mark Antony back at her palace, where he basically is like, everyone in Rome is going to remember me as the guy that during the big battle, when the going got tough and his men were counting on him, he hopped off the ship and sailed to his lover for safety. Um, so yeah, he's mentally not in the best of places. And Octavian is getting closer and closer to Egypt by now. So Cleopatra kind of lets him have his big last stand against Octavian, because she knows that if she doesn't let him do that, then he was just going to end his life anyway. So she lets him try and be the proud Roman, because, a Roman would love to die on the battlefield. So, him and the boys, they come up with a plan overnight, and everyone bar Rufio abandons him the
deserts
next
him. Yeah.
morning. He comes out. Martin Lando's just dead on a hay bale. God love him. And he hears the noise of the Romans coming over the hill, clattering their swords off their shields. They all surround him and they basically just mock him. They take the piss out of him and they refuse to kill him. They just keep bashing him with their shields. They just refuse to kill him. They just want him to basically die like a coward. Um, None of them are willing to kill him on the battlefield. And Octavian's just like, I cannot believe how easy this has gone for me. Um, and then yeah, we get the most insane kind of fake out ever, because Mark Antony goes back and Cleopatra's locked herself in her chamber, expecting him to have died on the battlefield or whatever. Um, so her assistant is like, "Oh, she ended her life," and then Mark Antony is like, "Oh my god, I missed her." So he stabs himself in the stomach, and
Falls on the sword.
the assistant goes, "Oh, actually, no, she didn't. I just really like her." Oh. Sorry, pal.
Yeah.
So now
Mark
Mark
Antony.
Anthony's just dying. He's just dying now. And he's like, oh, for fuck's sake, man.
Yeah. She comes out.
Stuff
She
him.
understands what's happening. He obviously dies in her arms, and
Yeah,
then
loser.
Octavian then tries to persuade her to kind of come to Rome and like no
Yeah,
harm
yeah,
will
yeah.
befall you. You'll be kind of a political prisoner, I suppose, but no harm will befall you. And she kind of initially refuses to come, and then she's like, "All right, yeah, whatever, I'll come." Obviously, it's a
Yeah,
fake.
she's like,
Though.
make sure my son is looked after and I'll
Yeah.
come. Which in real life, he is not looked after. He
No.
dies.
Yeah. But then in private, in her tomb, she kills herself. She takes her own life. And,
Yeah, with a snake.
With a snake, and then, but she's all decked out in gold as well. So it's like she really goes out on her terms.
Yeah. She goes out in way better style than Mark
Yeah,
Antony. He
100%.
just dies like a fucking idiot. And yeah, final shot's her on her deathbed in a 24-karat silk gold dress.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cleopatra, is it any use, Shane?
I think if you're willing to commit over 4 hours to a frustrating political drama, then good for you.
Boy, sign me up.
Yeah, it's like I said. I think the costuming is great. The set design is all great. Richard Burton's performance is good. Elizabeth's performance is at times good. But other than that, to be honest, I'm kind of struggling to think of too many things that are worth kind of going out your way to see here.
Yeah.
If it was 2.5 hours rather than over 4 hours, I'd probably say yeah, go for it, because there's enough kind of, it gets through enough of like kind of Roman and obviously this period of Egyptian history.
Yeah.
That's kind of it's kind of like a broad overview, and obviously it takes some liberties like these kind of things always do, but it's kind of a broad overview. But for the time that, like, I mean, for over 4 hours, I don't think it justifies its time spent on it whatsoever. To be honest, I personally gave it 2.5 stars. Yeah, I wouldn't be rushing to go and see this unless you're like a real lover of these kind of political dramas, to be honest.
I actually also went with 2.5 stars. I think if you were a like old Hollywood completionist, if you're the kind of person who'll sit through Birth of a Nation or The Jazz Singer or other like important films, you know, or just good important films like Wings, then you may as well watch this one too, because it is so infamous. It is such a prominent film that exists. Yeah, Cleopatra's entrance into Rome is phenomenal. The ship battle is brilliant, and Richard Burton is good. There's some great costumes. There's some ridiculously good sets. Like, they don't necessarily need to be that good. But you know, obviously just try and make the best that you can, I guess. But overall, yeah, this is a mess. Even if they were to get the footage together, the 6-hour cut, and do 2 3-hour films, that first film will probably still just suck anyway.
Yeah.
It probably still just won't be good. I do think maybe the second film will be an improvement. But you're also then missing Cleopatra entering Rome in that cut. So yeah, it's really not the best film we've covered on the podcast. It's kind of the first not great movie we've covered since I Confess.
Yeah, I agree.
And besides that, it is literally one of two films I would argue this year that weren't great. Because I personally enjoyed The Doorway to Hell. But yeah, it is not the best film by any stretch of the imagination, regardless of how much they spent on it. And yeah, that's our review of Cleopatra. So next week we conclude Hollywood Heavyweights and Swords and Sandals. We've got Requiem for a Heavyweight, and we've got Jason and the Argonauts. In the meantime, Shane, we're talking about the movies that we've watched recently, but I will admit I've only watched one. So we might squeeze in a guess the top 10 in this one as well,
Yeah,
just
I
to
don't mind.
make up for the sort of lack of content. I watched one movie. It's time for what we watched recently.
Although I've seen a good
Yes.
few, to be honest, so I could probably make up for them myself.
Yeah, I know Shane's going through all the Bond movies at the minute. I saw one film. It was Tenet. I watched Tenet. I do enjoy how divided everyone is on Tenet. You either love it or you hate it, it seems. That being said, I did not either love it or hate it. I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good film. It's by no means my favorite Nolan movie. I think it's quite funny in how it's like, don't try to understand it, just feel it. And that's not to say that like you can't understand it. Because I feel like I perfectly understood the movie. It just didn't always make sense. And that's fine. That's actually fine because there's a lot of cool stuff that happens on screen. And I think that's the point of the movie. The point of the movie is Christopher Nolan getting to have people go forwards and backwards in time in the same action sequence. That's why this movie exists. I don't think Christopher Nolan is trying to solve any paradoxes with this movie. I think it is just so he can get some really cool action and really test what you can do in an action sequence on screen. And I think he does that very interestingly. You can level this movie by saying, yeah, but there's no characters in this movie. The main guy's literally just called protagonist. Again, it's Christopher Nolan. He kind of knows what he's doing. I think that's very much intentional. I think this movie is literally just about like cool shit. I think that's why Nolan made this movie. I would say this is probably one of Christopher Nolan's favorite Christopher Nolan movies, if that makes sense. Like performances wise, I think everyone's at least grand. I don't think there's a bad performance in there. I personally actually really like the score. I know some people hate it. I personally really like it, and yeah, ultimately, this is definitely nowhere near my top 5 Nolan films. When it's all said and done, it probably won't even crack my top 10 Nolan films whenever he has, in say maybe 10 years time. Actually, how many films does Nolan have? Is it 11?
13.
13. Oh, so it probably already doesn't crack my top 10 Nolan films. But yeah, do I still enjoy it? Absolutely. Yeah. I think Tenet is a good time. Robert Pattinson pun in there. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, so for me, obviously, like I said, I'm going through the Bonds. So The Spy Who Loved Me is obviously Roger Moore. I like this one a lot. I think Jaws is a fun kind of sidekick villain. I've talked, I think, previously about how a lot of the good Bond movies, to me, they have really interesting villain sidekicks, and Jaws is
Yeah.
definitely up there. I enjoyed this a lot. Then we get on to Moonraker, which to me is absolute dog shit. Initially, they had
Yeah,
intended to
sucks.
make for Euros only. There's literally at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, they say for Euros only will be the next Bond movie. But then after the success of Star Wars, they decided to make Moonraker instead. Just nonsense from minute 1 to minute 126. I hate this so much. Jaws does come back. It's fun. It's kind of suppose spoiler alert, but it's kind of babyface turn, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. But yeah, like slim pickings when it comes to good stuff here. I hated this movie. Um, for Your Eyes Only, another weak effort in my opinion. Yeah, not a great Bond outing. But then we move on to Octopussy, which I really enjoyed. It's interesting because Bond movies, right? Some of the ones that I really enjoy have quite low ratings on Letterboxd, and some of the ones that I think are awful are like rated significantly higher.
Oh, people do love Moonraker, but I
Yeah.
also think it's dog shit.
Whereas this Octopussy has like 2.9 on Letterboxd. I think it's class. Um, I think it's kind of a lot of it is set in I think it's in India. So for once you're actually kind of getting, not completely like I think at this point a lot of the antagonists are Russians, and also that's the case in this as well. Although there is Kamal Khan played by Louis Jourdan is an interesting villain as well, and then you have Orlov played by Stephen Berkoff. So like a lot of kind of we're in the height of the Cold War, obviously. A lot of the depiction of Russians is obviously that they're the villains and stuff. So whatever, I suppose you have to kind of expect it, unfortunately, in Western cinema. But there we are. But yeah, I think it's really interesting kind of story. It's actually does a lot of different stuff. There's some of the action sequences are really they kind of take place in interesting locales, and yeah, it just looks a lot different than kind of your average Bond movie, which I appreciate. I really enjoyed that. Then A View to a Kill is the final Roger Moore movie, and I think it's for good reason. He's looking quite old at this stage, and he even said in real life that like it's a bit icky where he's kind of kissing people that are
Yeah.
young enough to be his daughter, if not even potentially his granddaughter. It's kind of icky. There we are, definitely icky. Christopher Walken is the villain in this, and Grace Jones is a sidekick. Grace Jones can't really act, but she has such a unique look that she like that alone makes up for it. She has like her delivery is quite wooden, but like she looks like she can punch anyone to death. So that's pretty great. And yeah, it's as for a final outing, I think it's solid, not amazing, but definitely solid enough. Then we move on to the Timothy Dalton era, which to me it's a real shame we only got two Timothy Dalton movies because they
Yeah,
have
I
all
agree.
bangers. The Living Daylights is class.
Yeah.
I didn't know what
Class
to
Bond
expect from
film.
this because yeah, it's like it's not mentioned a lot to me. I haven't really heard it mentioned a lot among like people's favorite Bond movies. I thought this was absolutely class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Joe Don Baker, who actually pops up in the Pierce Brosnan era as a different character, but he's the villain in this. John Rhys Davies from obviously the Indiana Jones movies. He's in this as well. Um, I really love this. And then we move on to License to Kill, which is obviously it's quite like an un-Bond movie in that it's all about his personal revenge quest, and like he's acting in quite different ways than you would expect. I think Timothy Dalton's taken the character obviously after the kind of extreme campiness of and silliness of the Roger Moore era, which I didn't personally mind that much. But he has a much more kind of kind of stoic, I guess, take on the character. He's much more kind of straight down the middle. There are little small moments of levity, but for the most part, I think he's probably the closest I've seen actually to Daniel Craig in terms of his portrayal of the character. And yeah, I think this is absolutely class. I think Robert Davi's villain is really good, and I have to say, Benicio del Toro plays like I think he's only 21 when he made this. Plays like one of his henchmen. I have to say, like, talk about star quality, because like a lot of actors kind of in a role like that, they wouldn't really make that much of it, but you can really tell that he's absolutely making every kind of second on screen count, and obviously he's gone on to have an incredible career. So it really kind of goes to show like the greats will just make it happen, to be honest, no matter what kind of size role they have. And yeah, that obviously takes up to the end of the Timothy Dalton era. You're going to be obviously going on to the Pierce Brosnan era from now. But then I watched a documentary called
GoldenEye.
Yeah, no, I seen Gold. But you know what? GoldenEye was what made me want to go on this Bond binge, because I absolutely love GoldenEye. And also, I have a Bond ranking Letterboxd. I definitely have under-ranked some of the entries, like Doctor No, Goldfinger, GoldenEye. I definitely need to add on like a half star, I think, to each of those films, because I'm looking at them, I'm like, I definitely enjoyed that more than say 3.5 or 4. Yeah, some of them are definitely worthy of more. Anyway, then the Robert Pattinson movie that's about to come out in September, I suppose, prime time. Kind
Yeah.
of the trailer looks so good that I was like, I need to watch the documentary. So I watched a documentary called Predators. Obviously, it's the first. It's kind of segmented, so there's three different segments. The first segment is dealing with To Catch a Predator, which is obviously the smash hit kind of American show from the 2000s with this guy Chris Hansen. And yeah, it's. I don't want to spoil too much about this documentary because I think it gives a complete overview about, like, obviously catching these monsters is completely necessary, but I think the documentary shows that some of the methods, like, what was that the priority, or was it like, was kind of getting yourself on camera, was that kind of the priority here, or was
Getting
that like,
yourself on prime time.
yeah, exactly. I think Pattinson is such an interesting actor, obviously such a great actor, but like he has this real like oily quality, so I think he's going to be a very interesting Chris Hansen, to be honest, because yeah, maybe he's not the most obviously he's doing some good stuff, but is it all in the name of what he says is in the name of? Who knows? But yeah, this is a great documentary, I have to say. I would definitely go your way to see it. It deals with, obviously, To Catch a Predator, but then it jumps forward to kind of the present day and a lot of the kind of online personalities who have been inspired by To Catch a Predator and Chris Hansen, and obviously they're doing kind of similar work, but obviously in very different ways, I suppose. So it's dealing with all those people as well, and then yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It kind of charts the whole progression, and I would definitely recommend it if you're kind of looking forward to prime time like I am. And then finally, Speed, which I'd never seen before. I don't know
Oh,
how.
you
Shut,
had
but
never seen
I'd
Speed?
never seen
Oh,
Speed. I
it
don't.
fucking rips.
Speed is fucking class. It's
So
so good.
unbelievably good.
It's such a dumb movie, but
So
it's so
class.
good. Like just when you think it's squeezed every drop of like of what I can get out of this dumb premise, it goes even stupider and even better. It's so good. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. I know they've spoken about how like they literally fancied each other making this
Yeah.
movie. They don't go do a good job of hiding that. They are just eye fucking each other the whole movie. It's so good. Dennis Hopper is this like ridiculous villain. It's class.
It's literally one of the best movies ever made.
I
I
just love.
fucking
I was
love
like, I
Speed.
can't wait to watch this again. It's so good. It's so like I don't know how I've not seen it before, but it's so good. Absolute amazing action movie. There we are.
One of the greatest premises in action
Yeah,
history. It's so
100%.
simple but so effective.
Yeah, the Father Ted episode. As much as I'm reluctant to give Glinner any credit, the Father Ted episode is absolutely class as well. So I definitely recommend, if you love Speed and you haven't seen that Father Ted episode, go and watch that, because that's inspired by Speed, because it's class. Obviously, a much more comedic kind of take on the premise. Although Speed, like, it definitely has some like dumb comic moments as well.
And now I reckon we get into Guess the Top 10. Because, Shane, I have a very fun top 10 for you off the bat, because I expect you to get 10 out of 10.
Oh well.
So I need you to look down the camera, Shane.
Yep.
In the history of the Golden Hour Film Podcast, Shane, there are 10 directors that we have covered more than twice.
More than
Name
twice.
all 10.
Okay.
Yeah, more than twice.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Is obviously first. We've covered Hitchcock how many times, if you were to hazard a guess?
I think we said that, was it? We did 11 movies in the 40s. Was it 10 or 11 from the 50s? And then Psycho. 23, is it?
25.
25.
You have number one.
Billy Wilder.
Is second with 5 films.
I always blank. Goddamn. Fritz Lang.
We have covered Fritz Lang twice. That is your first life.
Oh wait,
gone.
sorry, I had twice in my mind. Goddamn, that's my bad. Sorry,
Yeah.
That's
So the way this works, Shane has 3 lives. Well, now he has 2.
Yeah.
Shane had 3 lives. When he gets down to his last one, I will give him a clue. And because this is podcast related, I'm saying that you need to get all 10 to win.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know why. I literally had 2 in my mind there, and then I was, oh yeah, right, yeah, right. So more than twice. Okay.
Yeah, more than twice.
How many Otto Preminger films have you done? I think we've only done 2, so I'm not going to say him.
I have in front of me as well the list of everyone who we've covered only twice. So I
Michael
will be quick to mention.
Curtiz, I
I'll
think
be
is
quick to
twice.
mention if we've only covered them twice.
John Huston, Asphalt Jungle, The Maltese Falcon. I don't think we've done any other John Huston movies, so I'm not going to say him for the time being. Kurosawa, Seven Samurai, and High and Low, so it's only twice for him. You just go through actors. Jimmy Stewart, Frank Capra. When have done him? We've done To Have and Have Not. No, did we do To Have and Have Not? No, we haven't. Did we? We've done. It's a disaster. Completely blanking.
I'm gonna get you to just fire out a guess there.
Right. John Huston. I don't think it's right, but
We have covered John Huston more than once.
twice.
We covered him twice.
Yeah.
Right, Shane, you're down to your last life, so I'm going to give you a clue. I'll give you a bit of a non-clue, and then I'll give you a clue. My non-clue is that you were a part of every single episode in which any of these directors remaining were covered. So I guess that just really eliminates George Roy Hill and that Mexican guy. But my real clue I'll give you is I think this will be a big clue. Think particularly of last year. Because a lot of these directors
Howard Hawks.
we covered. Howard Hawks is third with 5 films.
David Lean. We've done Bridge and Iroquois, Brief Encounter. We haven't done more than 2 David Leans, I don't think.
So you have first place Alfred Hitchcock, second place Billy Wilder, and third place Howard Hawks. 7 to go with 1 life remaining. This would be pretty clutch.
Yeah, I'm not going to get it. I can tell you that now, but hopefully I can get a few more. I was going to say Orson Welles. We've done what? Touch of Evil. Obviously, Citizen Kane. And we do more than 2. I don't think we did. So I'm not going to say Orson Welles. Getting a lot of people 2, but God, 3.
But maybe some of those 2s were 3s. Or maybe they weren't. Maybe I'm just playing with you.
Kurosawa. I know it's wrong, but I'm just going to say Kurosawa.
I am afraid not, Shane. So this is in order. This list is in order of. Oh no. Oh, this is in no order. I don't think really, because they're all tied on 3 films. So
Right.
Alfred Hitchcock is first, which you got 25 films. Billy Wilder second, 5 films. Howard Hawks third, 5 films. Stanley Kubrick with 3 films.
Oh, God,
Spartacus, Paths of Glory, and Dr. Strangelove. This will test my knowledge because I don't have the list of films in front of me. 5th is Orson Welles, Touch of Evil, Citizen Kane, Lady from Shanghai. 6th is Frank Capra, It's a Wonderful Life, It Happened One Night, and You Can't Take It With You.
It happened one night, goddamn.
7th, William Wyler. You got Ben-Hur. You got
Roman Holiday.
Roman Holiday, and you've got The Best Years of Our Lives. Oh, I'm after exiting out. 8th, Michael Curtiz. You did say as well. That would be Casablanca.
Yeah.
White Christmas, Angels with Dirty Faces.
White Christmas. Where he did that.
And then 9th and 10th would have been. They were both covered 3 times within 1 month. You got James Whale, who obviously did Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Invisible Man, and then Terrence Young, who did 3 of the Bond movies.
Yeah, to be fair, I wasn't going to get Terrence Young. But I probably should have gotten the rest. I'm just annoyed about like White Christmas I forgot, and
Best Years of Our Lives.
yeah, Best Years of Our Lives. Yeah.
Lady from Shanghai.
Yeah, should have gone at least 6 there, not 7.
Shout out actually to anyone at home who managed to get all 10 of those, because that is a real Golden Hour Film Podcast listener if you manage to guess all 10 of those directors.
1960s Jimmy Stewart performances. So, out of 10,
Holy shit.
you can give me any 10, but give me 10.
10 Jimmy Stewart performances from the 60s.
Do you know,
Oh,
I'll say give me 8 of 10. No, he's done more than 10, I believe. But yeah, go 8.
I have literally no shot at this. I'm going to say The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
That's 1, yeah.
I'm going to say How the West Was Won.
Yep, that's 2.
I have a film that I don't know if it's 60s or 70s. No, it's almost definitely 70s. I was going to say Airport, but I think it's actually called like Airport 77, which makes me think that it came out in the 70s. So I'm not going to say Airport or Airport whatever. Right, there's obviously no Hitchcock movies. Obviously no Capra movies. I think it's Westerns. I think Westerns is the route here. I'm 99... No, yeah, that's 50s. Westerns. I was planning on doing a 12... Oh no, I did a 12 Jimmy Stewart performances everyone should see. That makes this even worse. I'm just really not a Jimmy Stewart 60s guy. I'm really not. I think the oldest or the newest, I should say, performance in that film does come from The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Westerns. Naked Spur is not the 60s. That might even be 40s. That's Anthony Mann. Why can't I think of 60s Jimmy Stewart Westerns? Because I know there is some. I'll say that Airport movie. Airport whatever. There's Airport 77. And then there's a number after it.
Airport 77 came out in 1977.
Did it come out in 1977?
Yeah.
Bollocks.
That's 1 strike.
The Shootist is definitely a 70s film. Because I did say I would do a part 2 of that video. And we actually did hit the amount of likes that I asked for, so this is awkward. But I'm trying to think what was on that list. I think the only thing that was on that list that I hadn't seen was How the West Was Won. I'm fairly sure The Bell, the Book, and the Candle is a 50s film. Anatomy of a Murder, I'm pretty sure is like 59. I don't think that was 1960. I still think that there's an airplane movie. I think there's a movie where he does fly a plane in the 60s. Because obviously he was like famous for flying a plane in World War One or World War Two, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah. A little bit of a hint, he did fly a plane in a Billy Wilder movie. I won't say what it's called or when it came out.
Oh, shit.
That I'm not saying that definitely is one of these movies, but it could be. Or
oh, right, okay.
It's that's that's not really a hint. It's just
yeah,
add on to what you were saying.
He has flown planes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. John Ford. Not Destry Rides Again, but it's a similar title. Destry Rides Again is like 40s, I think. Maybe it's 50s. I'm gonna the two. It's either the two rode together, or the two who rode together.
That's what you're going to call it. What are you saying?
Or two rode together, or two who rode together, or the two who rode together.
Yeah, two rode together. Yeah, correct.
I think this is where my attempt ends.
That's a great actually. Yeah. That's John Ford movie. I will say there's another John Ford movie, just as a last little help for it.
It's definitely a fucking Western as well. I think all Jimmy Stewart really did was Westerns.
There's a lot of Westerns.
in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm also just convinced that there's a movie where he flies a plane in the 60s. I don't think
You're not
I
going to get it.
have this.
Have you tapped out?
No. I'll throw out random Jimmy Stewart movies that are probably close to the 60s, but not quite. I'll say The Bell, the Book, and the Candle.
The Bell. The Bell, Book and Candle, it's 1958. That's the second strike.
Excellent. And I'll say Anatomy of a Murder, although I'm 99% sure that that's
1959. Yeah.
Alex.
Good effort.
60s
So you could
Jimmy
have
Stewart
had.
is really not my bag.
Yeah,
at
I
all.
wasn't sure how much you knew or not, so yeah, I wanted to see if you were kind of. So in 1960, we have The Mountain Road. You got two rode together. There's a movie in 1961 called X-15, which he only narrated, but he is in. You got The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Then we have Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation.
Never even heard of it.
Neither have I, to be honest. Then we got How the West Was Won, which you got. Then
Yeah.
we have Take Hershey's Mine. Then we have Cheyenne Autumn, which is another John Ford movie. Then we have Dear Bridget. Then we have Shenandoah. Then we have The Flight of the Phoenix. 1966, The Rare Breed. 1968.
Does he fly
Fire
a
Creek.
plane in Flight of the Phoenix?
He might do, actually. Yeah, looks like he might do, yeah. It's something to do. There's a plane on
Fucking knew it.
Robert
I
Aldrich,
knew there was
actually,
a
as well.
60s film where he flew a plane.
I should watch that. Robert Aldrich. Yeah, I think I'd like that, actually. Yeah, there we are. So, Fire Creek, 1968. Bandolero, 1968 as well.
Yeah, I
And,
suppose I've heard of Bandolero, but I think that's more so because of the Fast and Furious song.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, never in a million years would have gotten that. Right, that was the episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast where we covered Cleopatra. We also covered The Harder They Fall this week. Next week, we will be covering Jason and the Argonauts and Requiem for a Heavyweight. And on our Friday episode, Requiem for a Heavyweight, we will be telling you what we're doing next month. In the meantime, though, I've been Harry Bailey.
I'm Shane Mulvaney.
And we'll see you all then. Goodbye.